talk about the overall projected number one pick here, who's on a team that has the Chicago Bears decided to put a ton of weapons around to draft a quarterback in this number one spot.
Sure.
And Caleb Williams is the projected number one pick here. He's 6'1", 214 pounds. He is overall on everybody's board pretty much the number one guy, even though and number 2 and 3 has kind of been interchanging. I've watched a lot of film on him. I've listened to people talk about him. Let me bring up a couple things on him here, and I know you got his stats down, so chime in. But the guy's got great quick release, and he's got a strong arm. Not the strongest of the bunch of this group here, but he's got a strong arm. He has good reaction to defense. I mean, we were just talking about this earlier that his rushing yardage may not be that high total-wise, but his ability to throw on the run and his reaction to the rush is very good, which is why he's thrown for so many yards. And he's able to extend the play, which goes hand in hand with what I just said. Now, there are some negatives to him. He tends to move the pocket a lot often.
Yep.
He tends to try and make the play with his arm and not take it with his legs. And he also tends to try and throw on the run more often than in the pocket. So he's somebody that we've seen with a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. These young guys that come in don't feel comfortable in the pocket. It's not a good sign to me that he doesn't feel comfortable in the pocket at the almost Pac nothing now, but the division
formerly known,
the
division formerly known as the Pac-12,
that he doesn't feel like comfortable in the pocket there.
Yeah,
like if you're shifting your pocket around and causing yourself to make plays on the move like that, it's not going to be a high success rate play in the NFL, and we've seen it with quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, because he throws on the run, and I don't think he's the most accurate quarterback on this list.
He's accurate on the run. I will say that he's very accurate,
which I think is going to help him with Keenan Allen being there, because I think Keenan Allen is one of those backyard wide receiver kind of guys that's always going to be open, always going to find zones. DJ Moore is going to be a big play threat for you. There's tons of weapons around there.
But don't forget DeAndre Swift out the backfield helps too.
Yeah, and they got 2 other solid running backs there that can actually run the football. It's all going to be around that offensive line. And and again, the college rush is much different than the NFL rush. And his athleticism that was able to scramble and extend plays doesn't always translate to the NFL.
Yeah.
And he's not Anthony Richardson kind of speed and breakaway mobility.
And size.
Yes, he's mobile enough, and he's good. And his stats, there's a lot of concerns that I have for him going into the NFL, and his stats are not one of them. Like, he's thrown up monster stats. You look at 2022, when he threw up 4,500 yards, had 42 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions in the Pac-12, and also added 10 touchdowns on the ground. And he took a big step back this year from his Heisman year. And where he only threw for about 3,600 yards, 32 touchdowns, 30 touchdowns in the air, 5 interceptions, added another 11 touchdowns on the ground. His rushing numbers went down from his junior season, but his ego is what kills me the most.
Oh my gosh!
And that you want to know a way to lose the locker room is the premier perennial Pro Bowl wide receiver comes to watch your pro day and you don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Like, your ego, like, this is a team game. This is not about you. You, as a leader on that team, need to be able to come in there and command those guys to win games. Are you going to be that guy because you want a piece of ownership on the teams that you want? I mean, there's a lot of talks with his agents wanting him to get moved out of Chicago and not allow Chicago to draft him. Fine. Where are you going to go? The Patriots?
We could see an Eli Manning situation here.
Right.
Very easily.
But where are you going to go? Like, look at the top 4 teams. Do you like any of those situations? So you're going to force a team to trade up into a number 1 pick to come get you?
I know what he wants to go play for Cliff Kingsbury, who he just played for.
Who he didn't talk to? I mean, if you've read any of the reports in college, the only person that he talked to was Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Is I just read a report today too about
his coaches came out and said that
his lack of eye contact with all these scouts and team scouts and everything like that, especially coming out of Chicago. And they were saying his lack of eye contact during conversations, and it came out to be. And I don't know the validity of this, but pretty much the story came out to be that people need to earn his respect for them for him to look them in the eye.
All right. Well, I mean, again, it plays into the fact that this guy's got an ego on him, and the talent is there. I mean, it's undeniable, and we've seen it for 2-3 years now in the USC. There's the other big thing that I talked about in a couple weeks ago when I talked about Caleb Williams is that They played 4 ranked opponents this year.
Mm-hmm.
He lost all of those games.
Yeah.
And he lost to USC or UCLA, who was not ranked at all.
Yeah, but see, I don't put as much water into that glass because UCLA USC rivalry is pretty big.
He got shut out against ASU in the first half. They end up whooping on ASU in the second half for sure. But this is something that, I mean, talk about the playmakers around him all you want. It's USC. They have playmakers at the wide receiver position. They have they're going to have, a top 15 wide receiver in this draft.
Brendan Rice. They had Jerry Rice's son.
Yeah, and they're going to have a top 10 running back in this draft. So he had talent around him from this draft class of skill positions.
Yeah.
The amount of 3 and outs that he had in college, the amount of times he put, and you talk about USC's defense all you want, but if your defense is out there really, really quickly because you are trying to extend plays and you throw incompletions, and Colorado is a great example. He let Colorado hang around in that game. Mm-hmm. And they came back and pushed him into a great overtime game. I mean, that was one of the best games in college football last year.
Shouldn't have been a game.
Shouldn't have been a game. It should not have been a game. And he let them hang around into that game. And so there are decision-making questions that I have from him, but he's going to be the number 1 overall pick.
But here's